It's February 8th, and it's the nicest day we've had in a while, which isn't great, but we need to get the boat out. It's been a few months, and I'm going to take it out to our oyster farm, spend the night on the dock out there, just to run the systems up. Now, the water's not on here because it still could freeze, and the tanks on the boat are empty, so I just packed a few jugs and a little bit of food, and yeah, let's start to get underway. But you can't just run on the boat and start her up and drive away. You gotta get things ready. So, and especially if you rush, usually you forget something or something goes awry. So, taking my time about it. So, it'll be about a half an hour process. So, we're talking about getting this boat out of here. The Euphemia II, 1928 classic. I don't have a windlass on it because the windlass is getting, it's in the shop and it's going to get rebuilt. So one of the reasons I'm going to this dock is I don't have to use the anchor and the weather should be good. I'm not taking the penyan. That's a tow behind that I'll only take if I go outside a seashell inlet. In other words, if I go out for multiple days. I do have a tender on the roof and I got a stand-up board. So I got to pack this generator, a couple of cans of gas, get the fenders on the boat, raise the cover at the back of the boathouse, take the cover off the aft cockpit, and I've already turned my electronics on, and turned off the space heater that was down there. Packed away the space heater that's up here that I won't use. So I have to lift up the floorboards in the engine, in the wheelhouse, because the valve for the turning on the fuel transfer pump is inside the engine compartment. So I have to lift those boards up and hatches up and climb in there, flip a lever, and transfer some fuel to the tank that feeds the diesel stove, because I'll definitely want to be running that. And those are my 2 jugs of water that I'll need, but it's way more than I'll need actually. I do have a little heater running underneath the stairs here, so I'll turn that off. And I've got the little holes covered up. I do this in the wintertime just to prevent some of the heat from just running right out of the boat. And got some food, of course, just enough to last me a couple days, although I'll probably just be coming back tomorrow morning. So this is inside the engine compartment, and you can just see there, that's a fuel transfer pump. So I've opened the valve up, and so now I'm going to go back to where the holding tank is for the stove tank, which is elevated just enough to gravity feed that stove. But there's the tank, and it looks pretty original. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip a switch in here, and then I listen. There's no sight tube or anything on this tank, so I just have to listen for when I can hear the overflow hose splash some diesel into this holding tank over here, or this little container here that holds the overflow. And you can fill it through a deck hole fitting, but I'm gonna use the main tanks to fill this. Okay, so the boathouse is open. The cover is off the back of the cockpit on the boat. I've released the midship lines, and it's time to start the engine. Once I start it, it's going to be cold, so it's going to smoke. So I basically need to get out of here pretty promptly after that. But she hasn't been started in a while, so let's see how she goes. All right, turn the engage the start battery, give it a little throttle, and bouncing off the mooring lines a little bit. Running at 465 RPM. The coolant temperature is not accurate right now, and engine oil pressure is not accurate. When I brought it in at the end of the season last year, they flaked out on me, so I think there's a connection that's kind of loose. They'll bob around, they'll show accurate sometimes. So yeah, I gotta get out of here. It's time to back this boat up before I get smoked out. So super stress-free backing this thing out of the boathouse. It's just a question of whether there's any wind. I've got fenders everywhere in here, so I'm pretty good. But I am threading the needle a little bit out here, and there's no wind, so it's going to be stress-free. But when there is wind, it can get a little a little more difficult. And then once I just clear the marina, then I'll start putting the masts up. And if it's an overnighter, I'll definitely put the masts up. So yeah, beautiful day out here. I've cleared the marina. You can see the boathouse opening down there. And yeah, the weather is fantastic in terms of sea conditions. Just totally like glass out here. So sometimes it could be a bit blustery, but it doesn't really change much. I get up on the roof and just get far enough away from shore that I can float. And just untie this thing and raise it up. Yeah, so the mast and boom are up. I crossed the rope up there, line up there, but it's not worth doing anything about it because it's just going out overnight, and it's not going to affect anything. Super important that the boom is secured laterally as well as down. Otherwise it just swings around no matter how tight you pull it down. So laterally is really important. So that's done there, and yeah, I'm gonna head up to the oyster farm, which is just around the point up there. So looking at the gauges again, the engine is not overheating, but the temperature sensor or the wiring is not working right. Meanwhile, the engine oil pressure is fine, came online, and voltage is fine, and the tap's fine. Yeah, I have to take a look at that engine coolant temperature. Probably the most important sensor on the boat. Yeah, approaching the dock now, and I've got the fenders out. It's super calm. There's red and gray fenders out here, that red and green fenders out here that indicate passage. So red right returning, and that's what we'll do. And so here I am. I'll stay here for the night, and I got this thing spring tied, and yeah, if a storm blows up in here, I have to get off the dock. But it's just a boat and the dock wouldn't get along in a storm. But yeah, that's not the forecast, so we should be good. And I've got a whole bunch of chicken drumsticks in a pot in the oven, which is running. So they're kind of defrosting, and then I'll stick them on the barbecue for dinner tonight. In the meantime, I can get in the boat, get on the computer, and do some coding. All right, bye.